Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jen Marples Show. How are you, gorgeous, gorgeous humans? I hope you're having a beautiful day. You got me again this week, and I did something fun. I put a query out on Instagram and through some DMs and solicited some listener feedback and asked you all what you're dealing with and what you need help with. And what are some of the burning questions or burning sort of life situations that you're dealing with that you need some input on? So I'm going to run through some of those today. And I'm sharing them all with you, all of them. Every single thing that came in could be its own podcast episode. And I will be peeling away and bringing in some experts to address some of these. And I will note that along the way. But it's important for you all to hear what everyone is dealing with, because of course there are some of the universal truths. We're over 40, we're in midlife. So many of the things that these, you beautiful listeners brought to my attention are things that most of us are dealing with, all of them or some of them. But certainly, this podcast is about knowing also that we're all not alone in this midlife phase and that we're all dealing with all the things. So the women who wrote in, span different industries, very a little in ages, and definitely very parents vary in age, kids vary in age. But what we all have in common is, of course, that we're in midlife and that we're doing all the things. We've got a lot of questions. We need a lot of support. And that is why, of course, I have this podcast, is to support all of you. But before I get started into this, and I'm very excited to dig in, I'm so excited and just thankful that so many people wrote back to me and gave me so many great topics, some of which we've covered, some in a little bit, some in great detail, and some we're going to cover in great detail in the future. I wanted to let you guys know a couple of things. One, this podcast is now on YouTube. I think I've mentioned this before. You're listening to it probably in yours. Maybe you're watching it on YouTube. Hello, hello. But we are, since the beginning of the year, have been going live on YouTube. So certainly everything from the beginning of the year and now, so we are in May of 2024, are being featured on YouTube. And I'm slowly but surely going through the back catalog of interviews and posting them there. So if it's a way you want to interact with the show and with me, and check me out there or share with your friends, I'd really appreciate it. But we're there. So we are, spreading this message far and wide. And so YouTube is a new platform that we are exploring. So I'm very excited about it because there's some different people there on YouTube. And sometimes we just want to, we want to see what's going on instead of hearing what's going on. So there's that. Number two, I wanted to bring your attention to two popular agency services right now that clients are eating up. And I wanted to bring them to your attention in case you are saying, hey, Jen, I think I want to work with you, or I need some help. Two ways this summer that are really great ways for me to help you with your business and to help you get to the next level are these. So number one is sort of a 3-month coaching consulting container, and we can do what we want within that container. So I'm working with several clients right now. Everyone's kind of doing a little bit something different. One, for example, is we're really working her messaging and positioning because she's looking to get investors in her concept. So that's one way. Another client is launching a business completely from scratch. Another client just needs clarity and she's looking for new revenue streams. I've got another client who is sick of kind of doing what she's doing right now and wants to expand and kind of walk away from one thing and walk into another thing. Both related, but she's kind of sick of this one piece of her business and she's looking to expand another piece. Another client that I just wrapped up had just really wanted to launch. She had a great idea and she needed help getting started and getting launched. So I love a 3-month container because we can really get a lot done, and you've got my support for those 3 months, and we dig into wherever you need the help digging in. So that's number one. Number two, this is something I'm launching for the summer. I can't guarantee that this is going to happen in the fall because the fall is going to be very busy. I'm going to be launching a really big program. There are going to be lots of events and a lot of exciting things happening in this world. So stay tuned. I do spotlight days, and these spotlight days, they're kind of like power days. We get together, we refine your personal brand, we get very clear, we look at how you're presenting yourself. So it's the words, it's your colors, it's your fonts, it's everywhere you're showing up. And we really do a power deep dive in one day for a few hours. And then we follow that up with a photo shoots, with a branding photo shoot. So I have done these myself personally as a standalone to, when I wanted to pivot my business, I'm like, okay, I need to let you guys know it's more than just taking photos. Branding photo shoots are really important, but branding photo shoots need to have a strategy. So my clients are always excited to do photo shoots, but there always needs to be a strategy behind the shoot. What are you doing? Are you adding new pieces of your business? Are you launching a business? Are you creating a new website? Are you adding new revenue streams? Are you doing events? Are you starting to speak? So we need to know all these things and really lock in who you are, what the brand stands for today, what you're working towards tomorrow. And then we cap it off with a beautiful branding shoot. So this is kind of like what I like to say, one and done. So we get this done in one weekend. I'm here locally in the San Francisco Bay Area. This is available to anybody outside of San Francisco. So we can work on a lot of this stuff before your branding photo shoot. So I can welcome you to come out and spend the night. Come hang out with me for 24 hours and we can work on your brand, we can work on your business, and then we end it with a photo shoot. So I've got wonderful hotels that I partner with. And so there's beautiful places to stay. So if that's something that calls to you, you don't need to be physically located in the San Francisco Bay Area. That service is open for all of you. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up. Oh, the most important thing, I'm just going to start talking with that. My most important, exciting thing that I'm announcing, and that is also that I am launching a summer mastermind. So many of you listening have attended my masterminds, and this really came to me. A couple of people have been asking, and it's also something I want to offer up to current clients. So if you work with me right now in any capacity, you do a spotlight day, you do a 3-month coaching consulting container, or any other engagement with the agency, because the agency provides all types of services, you're going to get this mastermind at no extra cost. So if you're thinking about working with me and some of these things I'm talking about are like, okay, Jen, I'm ready to go. Well, guess what? You get something a little extra as one of my clients. But if you're not one of my clients and you would like extra support, a mastermind is a great way to engage with a community and connection. So it's a small group of people. We meet on a monthly basis or weekly basis rather. A mastermind is really about the mastermind that happens when a bunch of badass entrepreneurs are in a room together. So in previous masterminds, we have discussed all manner of things happening in business. So the beautiful thing about this mastermind is that you've got accountability, you've got connection. I know summer's happening, but I'm not vacationing for 3 months. You're probably not vacationing for 3 months if you got a business. So it's a great way to stay on top of everything that's going on in your business world. And I know you want to expand. You probably want to launch things in the fall. You're looking to add new revenue streams, maybe zhuzh up your personal brand or where you're showing up. A mastermind is basically for all of you if you have a business. If you have a business, you're craving that connection, you're craving an extra set of eyes, ears, and brains on your business, and you need that accountability, this mastermind is going to be for you. It's going to be fun. We're going to hold each other accountable. You're going to get shit done. The summer slide won't happen like what happens with our kids when they don't go to school. We don't want that to happen in our businesses. When everyone else is off playing, first of all, I want you all to play for sure. But you're going to be building and you're going to be bonding and you're going to be growing this summer as a part of this mastermind. So if you are interested, there is a link in the bio to get onto the waiting list because I'm going to be releasing more information in the coming days, and we'll kick off in June after all the graduations have happened and all that dust has settled. We'll get cracking on a summer mastermind. And the beautiful thing at the end of the mastermind, we always like to celebrate. So there are going to be a couple little surprises within there. But again, to summarize all of that before I get into actually what I want to talk about today is 3 things. 1, I've got beautiful summer spotlight sessions available. And that are like, those are the one and dones where you come in, we work on your personal branding, and we end it with a photo shoot. So that's kind of in and out, you're done. Second piece is I highly recommend if you're at a crossroads or stuck, let's do a 3-month container and let's work together this summer to get your business to where you want it to be. And if you do any of those things or have any engagement with my agency whatsoever, you also get this mastermind for free. It's a nice gift that I offer my clients because not only do you get the one-on-one with me, but you also get the beautiful other brains of the women that I work with. And let me tell you, everyone that I work with, of course, because we're all in midlife, is fabulous, smart, savvy, and has amazing, incredible ideas. All right. So that's that. Check out the link in the show notes for more information on all of what I just talked about, and let's get cracking. So I asked you all questions. What's everyone dealing with? What is everybody struggling with? Number one, this is a big one that popped up. This came in from a couple people. And this is how to balance it all. How to balance it all when we have either lost parents, or we have parents that are getting older. So we're navigating that. Plus, we're navigating children. We're navigating becoming empty nesters. So a couple of these suggestions or queries came in, and this big theme popped up, which we've talked about it here on the show before. And that is this, I call it the midlife soup. And the midlife soup is where we are working, trying to keep that all together. We're in relationships, we're trying to keep those together, or we've said goodbye to relationships. And dynamics are changing because we've lost parents, or we have parents that are ill or that are declining, and or we've lost people closest to us. And we're also looking at becoming either empty nesters, or the dynamic in our household is changing because we've got 1 or 2 kids out the door, or they're completely out the door. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm going to bring somebody on actually to talk about this specifically, of how we can deal with it in more detail. So I'm really glad, ladies, that you brought this up. So I'm going to, in the meantime, before I bring on a future guest to really kind of dig into that and like the very real loss. And I know I'm dealing with my own, you've heard me talk about it. My dad was sick all last year, and then my mom had a heart attack a few months ago. I have a son, as I record this, graduating. Actually, when this drops, my son will be graduating 3 weeks from the day that this podcast drops, from high school. How in the hell did that happen? I do not know. And I know a lot of you listening have college graduates. And then there's a lot, your kids have graduated college, and now they're actually really, truly moving away and not coming home. They're not coming home for summer break and for Christmas break. So I know, it's really interesting. I've had this conversation specifically about the kids, that the men don't seem to understand it or to feel this in a way that we women feel this. Because my husband's like, why are you stressed? Or, why? Yeah, I know you're feeling sad, but I literally feel like a limb is being ripped off of me. And I'm going to try to make it through this podcast episode without crying. I can't actually believe that my son, first of all, that he's going to be leaving. And I know they're going to all be, and he'll be home to visit and this and that, but the dynamic of my home is going to change. It's going to affect my girls because they think about it, and they have 2 more years until they graduate. So we think about the dinner table, family outings, and all of that. But I just can't believe that this kid that I thought was just in preschool with his little tattoos and little necklaces and his little buddies and all of that, like, where did that kid go? And how do I have an almost 19-year-old? He turns 19 in July. How did that happen? How did that happen? I don't know. I also don't know how, I'm tripping. I'm going to be honest. I'm tripping today. I was just looking at myself in the mirror. I'm tired. There's a lot going on with this, this graduation. As soon as we get through that, and I'm entertaining like 2 families. There's a million people coming to visit. It's all good. But ladies listening, with any kind of graduation, a big thing, it's like, it's always that May. It's always been about May and moms. I think so. Even if there's nobody graduating, there's always that end of the school year, the this and the that, and the banquets and the gifts and the I'm dealing with that too. My daughter's a track event. I didn't know about it. Okay, great. A banquet. I got a RSVP and there's a dish. And then we've got to get the gift for the coaches and the this and the that. So let's just take a pause. If you're in any of that, we're not going to get the medal, but let's acknowledge each other. And let's also not try to gloss over it. I was at a luncheon last week. 9 women out of about 20 were all dealing with college or high school graduations and navigating. And these were the first kids going, some these were going to make them empty nesters. There's just a whole lot of emotion. And so what I would say to all of us, if we're dealing with the empty nest, if we're dealing with the parents, any type of big life change, we've got to feel the feelings. We have to feel our feelings. We've got to cry. We've got to laugh. We've got to pick up the phone and call a friend if we're feeling like it's just too much and you just need a good cry session. This happened to me actually, the kindness of strangers. Beautiful woman in yoga. She's an acquaintance, becoming a friend, lovely human. She has a younger son. Just a few weeks ago, I was telling her about my college visits with my son, and we're just talking, and she was at the beginning of it all. I'm not at the ending. I mean, my son is almost 19, but you know what I'm saying? Her son is in early elementary school. And I was just telling her, all of a sudden, everything was pouring out of me. She was like, oh my God, she got chills. And she came and gave me a hug. And of course I started crying. And I thought, this is what it's all about. This is how we can really support each other, is just listening. There's a lot of us going through a lot of stuff, colleges and the parents. So my advice, I guess, is a couplefold. One is feel the feelings and cry. Don't try to be strong and not think it's any type of sign of weakness or that you're mushy or whatever to cry because your child is leaving or because your parent has passed or they are sick. We're going through all these big transitions. So feel the feelings would be my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice would be really to call on those friends. And if you feel like you need deeper support, reach out to a professional, but don't keep it all inside. I'm famous for giving all this advice, you guys. I give a lot of this advice and I sometimes don't take my own advice. I was in a total funk last week. That was last week's podcast, right? After I recorded last week's podcast about being in a funk and I just wasn't I wasn't allowing myself to feel my feelings because I'm just going to, my son's leaving and there is this thread. There's 3 weeks of graduation is in 3 weeks. It's a big event. I was messing around with the dishwasher and it's like, when signs come, like when you hit your head against the car, whatever, you're like, why the hell does that happen? Like, what is the universe or God trying to tell me? I'm not even kidding you. A chopstick flew out of the dishwasher and stabbed me in the face. And it was so shocking and it hurt so bad. What happens. I just started bawling. It was like, I needed to get stabbed in the face with a chopstick to finally have this emotional release that I've been knowing I needed and wasn't allowing myself to have. And my husband's looking at me, my kids are looking at me. I'm like, I'm okay. I just had to go cry in my bedroom and those like heaving sobs just to let it all out. So I really don't want any of you to get hit in the face with a chopstick. And I was going to see a lecture and things the next day. By the grace of God, it did not bruise. It swelled up. I just sat there with a bag of peas on my face and cried in my bed. So that's my advice. Cry, feel the feelings, talk to somebody. So I talked to somebody the next day. I was like, I can't even talk to my husband about this. I have to talk to another mom, and talked it out. And then just continue to move your body. Like that's the best way I know how to cope. Anytime I've experienced loss or trauma, I've cried so many tears on my yoga mat on those days. If you're working out, just go in the corner so nobody sees you and just work it out and take care of yourself. So it's really about taking care of yourself. So I don't have all the answers, but I do know that we need each other. We need to feel the feelings and we need to take care of ourselves. So I'm going to bring on somebody to kind of dig into this topic more of transitions in greater detail, somebody who's like at that pay grade who can really give us some good advice. But I just wanted to offer that up now, especially because, we've got a lot of movement happening, especially with kids leaving the nest and graduations and things like that. So, and I also just want to say that I just love you all. I really, truly do. Oh, to be in this life together at this time, it's incredible and amazing. And we need each other. We've got each other. We've got to lean on each other. We've got to lean on each other really hard. You've heard me say this a million times. We have to, or I should say, not we have to, but when we really do share our deepest truths, we feel more connected and less alone. You don't have to do it, but if you don't, you are going to feel disconnected. So don't stuff the feelings down, feel the feelings. And if you need help from a friend, you can always DM me. Just say, I need somebody to listen. That's all a lot of us should need. We just need someone to listen to us. I did this for another friend a few weeks ago who's having some issues with a child. And we went out to dinner and talked and talked and talked. I drove her home and we talked for like another hour and a half, but I just listened. So you can be that for somebody, or just tell a friend, say, hey girl, I need someone to just listen to me. It's very powerful. We cannot keep it all inside. Okay, that was number one that came in. Another one that came in, and I have threatened to bring on a parenting expert, and I do know one, and I'm going to bring one on because this pops up a lot. And this is the topic of mean girls. So if you have teenagers or preteens still in the home, this pops up. It's popped up in my own house recently. I mean, it's been popping up since my girls were in second grade. There's been girl drama. And it's really interesting. I know that there's psychology behind it. I read an article a long time ago that stated, I think, teen girl behavior, it's kind of related to, being part of a tribe, wanting to feel accepted, but it goes back to kind of survival of the fittest and like aligning yourself with the people you think are going to, keep you alive. Again, I'm not the expert here, so I think that's what I read. But the one gal friend of mine who wrote this question and was, we know kids aren't all going to be friends and that friendships can end. But the bigger question, because I don't know if we can solve teen girl behavior, we can do what we can and model, first of all, model really excellent female leadership and how women truly support women. That's the first thing. It starts at home. If you're catty at home and talking shit about another woman, well, that's what your kids are learning. That's that. So our kids learn from us by watching us really, truly, versus listening to us. So if you want them, God, I wish I could remember. I listened to this really great doctor on Gabby Reese's podcast. He said, if you want your kids to be loving, model love. If you want them to be kind, model kindness. And so it goes. And so this is really the truth. And so this question that came in was about how do we manage these relationships and manage these teen dramas with grace and kindness, even when the other party, meaning the other mother, doesn't want any part of it. So it's very complex and interesting. And I do know part of this article that I'd read before was that some moms like the fact that their girls are quote unquote popular, or they're like the queen bees. And so it gives them some type of status if their girls are popular or doing their thing. I'm not saying being popular is bad, but certainly being a queen bee and telling other girls what to do and being mean is no way to be. And that we need to do away with that behavior. So it's layered, it's complex. So I do want to bring somebody on because she's not the first or last person who's asked me to bring on a parenting expert. So I'm going to do that. So I think in the meantime, my solution would be to model the behavior you want your child to have. Number two, if you can reach out to the parents, sometimes, as your kids get older, you don't really know the parents. So it's a little harder. In the case of when one of my girls had a big issue, I was able to talk to the mom. We were friends. We actually were all really close. The girls never ended up being friends, but we tried to approach it to give them tools to deal with it. And at the end of the day, this girl had her own things going on in her life. And I just had to tell my daughters, it's like, she's got stuff going on, but it doesn't mean you accept this bad behavior. You remove yourself from it. You don't deserve it. And, bless and release. It's the same thing I tell all of us. If we come into contact with people we don't like or that are lowering our vibe, it's bless and release. So that's my best advice. And just helping, your kids navigate. But I will say it is really hard to watch because it's heartbreaking for our girls, for friendships to end and to deal with mean girls. It's like, it's the equivalent of us getting divorced. It's that painful. So don't minimize their pain and go, oh, they can make new friends. Just be in that pain with them and help them find some solutions, and then reach out to experts if you need to. But I'm going to try to bring somebody on the show, which leads me into my next one, which it's the older version of what we just talked about. And somebody else saying that she's not feeling like women are supporting women. And how do we do this? How do we do this better? Do we need men to be our allies? Because she's not feeling it. And this particular person who wrote in is in a big corporate environment. So I know it's easier to say, or it's easier to control your environment when you're an entrepreneur and you can control who you deal with, who your clients are, who you're partnering with and collaborating with. But it's really hard when you're in corporate America and you're dealing with, women who, like all of us, we've all been brought up kind of in the same less is more. We were all, technically fighting for, the scraps at the table. And some women have a lot of internalized patriarchy within them, and they've been burned, and they simply are not good leaders in the sense that they wield their power negatively. It pains me to say that about other women, but it's true. And those women need to do their work. Now, this is not a total solution. You can't say to your boss or to your colleague, you need to do your work because you have internalized misogyny and you're a horrible person. Like, that's not going to fly. I think talking about it, at least talking about it, bringing out into the open and seeing what you can do. I know somebody else also who's working at a very big tech company who went on a personal leave for a couple months and said, I cannot go back because she has a boss, kind of just who I just described, who's basically a mean person who's killed the vibe within the team. And she said, I simply can't. I'm simply too fucking old to deal with this. This is a complicated situation. And I am going to bring somebody on because I know a couple women who have companies and they kind of deal with this. So I kind of like career coaching, transitioning, but how to navigate stuff at work. I haven't worked in corporate America for over 20 years. So I can't really talk about it. I know I can say bless and release. I can tell you why women are acting that way, but I don't have the best solutions within a corporate environment. So what I will say is, for now, the advice I can give is that if you are dealing with something like that, no, it's not about you. It's about them, something that's happened to them. It's that internalized patriarchy, things that they've had to deal with that they're not confronting. And so they're leading the only way that they know how. It doesn't mean you have to like it, because you don't have to stand for it. And you don't have to be a part of it. But again, it's easier said than done if those people are your colleagues or they're your managers, collaborators, and what have you. So just know it's not about you. And then you've all heard my Women Supporting Women rah-rah speech is we've got to really triple down on our support of women. I have a keynote speech dedicated to it. And it's got the title Women Supporting Women. We must do better, because we really do, because we're still having these conversations. So we've got to do better. We've got to actually truly put our money where our mouth is and go out of our way to support women, buy women owned, go out of your way to shout out another woman. If somebody gets promoted, if somebody writes a LinkedIn article, somebody just launched a book, we got to go all in and be the loudest cheerleaders for each other. We have to. It's so impossible to do this alone. I'm not going to turn this into a whole Women Supporting Women of 20 podcast episodes dedicated to it, but it bears repeating time and time again. And if you ever need tools, I will link the show. It's called Women Supporting Women. I will link those episodes in the show notes here if you want to go back and listen to all the ways that you can support women. But first and foremost, just don't be mean. Support, shout out, don't be jealous. Understand that if you are jealous of somebody, it's a trigger. You're seeing something in someone that you want and that you actually know that you have already in you. So use it as information. It's not that, oh, I'm going to take her down because she's doing the thing. No, ma'am. Go, oh, God, she's doing the thing. What is this telling me, teaching me? So, friend who sent that in about women supporting women and doing better, I'm going to bring somebody in to help us navigate how to sort of thrive in the corporate world as we are, thriving in, we don't want to just be surviving, we want to be thriving in midlife. And we're at a level in our careers, and that is a huge hindrance, and it just doesn't make us feel good. And it's really negative. The last job I had in a corporate setting was awful. I was drinking, was it Malox, like anti-acid stuff, because I was so petrified of a female client, and all of her team members were in therapy because of her. So more to come on that, but women, we must support each other and do better. One of the final things that came up, and this is a really big one, and I already have a couple guests in the queue to be interviewed in this regard, and that is about, charging what you're worth, getting a fair wage, pay equity, and sort of overcoming those barriers. With every single one of my clients, every single woman I know in my leadership groups, and these are women that are on paper, have credentials out the ass. We all have credentials out the ass because we're in midlife. Every single woman struggles with this. We all struggle with what to charge and how do we ask to get paid what we're worth. It's big, it's juicy, it's heady. And I'm bringing women on sooner than later to talk about this. It's been something that's been on my mind's eye, and it's been on my schedule to do for a very long time. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to also talk about financial security. So those are two things. I haven't gone on this podcast a lot about finances, financial security, getting paid what we're worth, and all that. So that is a priority for me because I know it's really important for all of us. I will say a couple pieces of my own advice for getting paid what you're worth. Really getting paid what you're worth is like, what would a white man charge? What would the white guy charge for what you offer? I was listening to Levy's podcast, and she was, and bless her, she was talking about some financial hardships and some things in her business that were happening and that she's rectifying. And I really appreciated that as an entrepreneur, because we can all learn from everybody. Every one of us learns from each other. But she proudly said, she's like, I get paid when I speak. I get paid what the white guys get paid. And so I just want you to have that energy of, it's the fair market value, which is, what are the white guys getting paid? So do your market research. If you don't know what to charge for your products and services, you got to do your research on it. So I'm not saying, oh, I think I'm amazing, I'm going to charge $25,000 an hour. I'm sure there are people out there that are doing it. Bless, bless, bless. I don't think that's any one of us, but hey, I am not squashing any dreams, but it's about being real. And again, it's about what the white guys are getting paid. Conversely, I want you all to think about this. When you are dealing, in business with other women, are you trying to get them to reduce prices? Are you trying to get them to work for free? Are you clutching your pearls because somebody has said it costs X to work with them? It's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you. So think about your own bias. We have our own bias towards other women charging what they're worth. This is a two-way street. It's a two-way street. I know I was chatting with a friend of mine who, she was talking about her deliverables. She's a Bronwyn. She's been on the podcast before, and she's a communications coach. And we had the same conversation about, what are the white guys doing? We all go out of our way, and most women overservice and overdeliver. in everything that we do. And it just leads to burnout. It leads to frustration. It just doesn't lead to anything good. So it's charging what the white guys are. And we had this story that I was sharing with her of a friend of mine who's also in communications and said some guy came in and he charged, I'm going to say $15,000 for this hour of his expertise. And he left everybody with 3 bullet points on a piece of notebook paper as his leave behind for his time. People paid him for that. And any one of us is going, oh, it wasn't branded. It wasn't a book. It didn't have 1,000 things and tips and tools and this and that. And it didn't also include multiple hours of coaching and training and this and that and the other. So it's time to adopt some of this white guy energy, A, and B, also understand where you're trying to get something for free or thinking you want to ask your friend who's a lawyer or a doctor or a marketer, a digital media queen, to pick her brain or take her for coffee for an hour. She doesn't go to coffee for an hour without getting paid, because if she doesn't work for that hour, she's not getting paid. This is not to say we're not all going to give 5 minutes of advice. We're all happy to give 5 minutes of advice, but understand too that we're part of the problem, because I get asked all the time, can I take you for a walk? Can I buy you a glass of wine? No, you can't. I have 3 kids. I run a business. If I went out for every cup of coffee and glass of wine, I'd be gone all the time making no money. And then I can't send my kids to college. So we have to think about how we are interacting with other women and their services. So if you want your friends to help you out with their photos or their marketing advice, legal advice, whatever it is, you got to pay them. And I've been the one who's actually, vendors that I use, I'm always telling them to raise their prices, because that's just, the business coach, entrepreneur in me going, girl, you are not charging enough for your services. If you're so busy you can't see straight, you need to up those prices. You deliver a great product. I know it's really hard. So get white guy energy under your belt, adopt it, embrace it, and also see where you're being part of this, I'm going to call it a problem, of women not getting paid what they're worth. We all have to look at it. It's all buried in us. It's all part of that internalized patriarchy. So check that out. And I'm going to have experts coming on sooner than later to really get into this, to really dig deep into it, because it's really important. So we got to get paid, and we also have to build our financial security. There's a lot of single moms listening to this show. There's a lot of us who are, out here still recovering from COVID. People have had illnesses. People have a lot of things going on. So I'm committing to you. I'm going to bring on some more experts in that regard, because financial health is part of wellness, and it's part of being fucking fabulous in our 50s. And, we're not too fucking old to have our financial shit together. Let's just say that. All right. Oh gosh, I love talking to all of you. I could go on and on, but I'm going to cut myself off, because I know my podcast manager is going to be like, Jen, you told me this was going to be a quick one. And well, it's not. They never are, because that's just not me. I'm not a quick and dirty person. I try. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. I hope this gives you a little insight into some other experts I'm going to be bringing on the show. Always reach out to me if there is somebody you want to hear from. I ask everyone to be on the show. I got no bones about that. I've got my white guy energy in that regard. And if you just have specific questions, you can always message me. I'm everywhere at jenmarples on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. Come find me. And or just shoot me an email, jen@jenmarples.com, and send me questions, send me guests that you want to have on. I'm here. This is a two-way street here in podcast land. So my final request is, as always, is to share this podcast with a friend. Let's help spread the word. Let's help empower each other. Women supporting women. Okay, I'm going to make you feel guilty now. Women supporting women. How you can support me is sharing the podcast, but you're actually supporting your friend. And, women maybe that you don't even know, by sharing this podcast with everyone. So I hope you do that. And also make sure you're subscribed and that you've rated and reviewed the podcast. It all helps as we blow this puppy up And like I said, there's some exciting things coming in the fall in relation to this podcast and some other things. So stay tuned for that. Again, if you're interested in working with me, all those links will be in the show notes. A mastermind coming soon. You can get on the wait list. And of course, ping me and book a call. If you are interested in working with me in any regard, you can book a complimentary call. And those links are in the show notes. All right, ladies, I hope you have a fabulous day. Love and adore you. You've got this. We've got this together. We are in community together. So just know you are not alone and you're listening to the right show. I love and adore you. Have a beautiful day.